Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome from KSAT in San Antonio, Ursula Perry.
Good evening, everyone. It is such a pleasure to be here tonight for a number of reasons. First of all, to see my colleagues win awards that they truly deserve, and secondly, to honor someone who has basically been a thorn in my side for the past 15 years. When I came to San Antonio 15 years ago, I learned that there were two things I needed to know. One of the things I needed to know is there was an anchor, long-time anchor in San Antonio, who somehow was always able to garner 50 shares and basically trounce the competition. The other thing I needed to know is that I was not going to be working with him. I was going to be working against him. His name was Chris Marro. 15 years passed and we battled it out, every book. And I can't say it was always pleasant. I can say that sometimes he bested us and sometimes we bested him. But then this wonderful thing happened and he announced his retirement. And I had the pleasure then of celebrating alongside him and was able to nominate him for induction into our Silver Circle. So turn your attention to our video screen and you'll see what other folks had to say about Chris Marro.
Good evening. I need to get this UFO thing out of the way first. We've had a lot of calls about an unidentified flying object over northern San Antonio tonight that has flashing lights but it's not big enough to be a blimp. Well, you're correct on both counts. It is an airplane with an electric sign that spells out advertising for Ingram Mall, the new shopping center that opened today in the northwest part of town. It's the first time they've ever used that sort of plane here. If it lands and aliens get out of it, well, we'll let you know.
Aliens may have never appeared in South Texas, but if they had, viewers in San Antonio surely would have turned to Chris Marro for answers. For nearly 4 decades, Chris was the face of the news at KENS TV. He reported on the biggest stories of our time, stories that mattered, stories that shaped our world. But the serious newsman with the signature resonant voice also has a sense of humor, and he always found a way to lighten things up. He's a serious man who never took himself seriously.
Beginning to look a lot like lunchtime.
The force is strong in this one.
Oh, no! Just having the chance to serve my community, my hometown, be able to tell people what's going on, have people think of me as a friend, and to have done this over for longer than 3 decades, almost 4 decades. It's really been an honor to me. I really feel that the city has granted that to me, and I'm very, very happy that they did.
Chris Rene Marro was born in Nixon, Texas. Even as a kid, Chris was defined by his thirst for knowledge and fascination for television. After graduating from Robert E. Lee High School in San Antonio, the kid from South Texas landed at Princeton University studying political science and astrophysics. But the campus radio station tweaked his interest, and he soon learned he had a mind for science, but a voice for radio. After a few DJ gigs and a television job back home in San Antonio, it was in 1973 that Marro took a fateful walk into the KENS TV studios.
We did the audition, and as we were doing that, the anchorman who was leaving us walked through the control room. He says, "Who's that?" And I said, "That's your replacement. You can leave anytime."
During his time on the anchor desk, Marro was the consummate journalist. Report it first and get it right was the order of business, and co-anchors and reporters were quick to take his lead.
He is on a constant quest for knowledge and improvement, and he brings that A game to the newscast. He brought it every single day.
Chris really was San Antonio news. He was the face of news for over 3 decades, and he really set the bar, as far as I'm concerned, in broadcast journalism for San Antonio.
That's Eyewitness News. Good night. Have a nice weekend.
Chris retired from KENS TV in November of 2009, but during the last few years of his tenure, education was on his mind again. He cracked the books, passed the test, and Chris Marro, news anchor, started down a new life path as Chris Marro, attorney at law.
And he went to law school full-time while working here full-time. He'd bring his law books out here on set, and he'd be studying between newscasts, and he got his degree, and now he's a municipal judge.
Chris had an insatiable appetite for learning. And how many anchors do you know that would actually go to law school while they're working on a full-time job? I was amazed that he wanted to take on that new challenge, and he did and embraced it. And then he told me he's taking on another challenge to get a master's degree in business at the University of Texas. There aren't too many people that have a bigger thirst for knowledge than Chris.
Municipal Judge Chris Marro has put television news behind him, but his leadership, his integrity, and his legacy will live on at KENS TV. And for his dedication and his tireless commitment to excellence in broadcasting, it is with great honor that we welcome Chris Marro to the Silver Circle of the Lone Star chapter of the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences.
Come on up, Chris. One of my greatest regrets, Chris, is that you and I never worked together. Except for tonight. We get to share a stage, and I'm very honored and pleased to give you this honor. I think that there couldn't be a better candidate to be inducted into the Silver Circle, and I'm so glad to be a part of it. Congratulations, ladies and gentlemen, Judge Chris Marro.
Thank you, Ursula. Ursula and I battled it out toe-to-toe for 15 years, neither asking for nor giving mercy. And it shows a lot of class that she nominated me for this, and thank you very much. I'd like to thank two people for making it possible for me to get this award. One of them, the late Dan Cook, whom you may have seen in a couple of those shots. He was a sports writer extraordinaire. He was the man who, on one 5 o'clock news one night, invented the phrase, "The opera ain't over till the fat lady sings." And he said later that wasn't even his best quote, and it wasn't. We had a great time for 28 years together. And of course, I'd like to thank my wife, Kathy, who over 36 years watched almost every one of my newscasts, was able to tell me how to improve, what the competition was doing, how we could deal with it. And especially, every once in a while, as I'm sure all of you do, I would get very angry at something that happened at work. I would come home and swear I was never going to deal with those people again. They were all fools, scoundrels. I was going to quit tomorrow. And then she'd wait till the next day, and Kurt can tell you about it. It happened a couple of times when Kurt was news director. And the next day I'd calm down a little, and she'd say, "Now, honey, go back and eat the big one so we can have our check next week." So it's thanks to Kathy that I'm accepting this award tonight, and not a wino in Topeka. Thank you.